Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Today, we've got an amazing story of going from bankruptcy to profitability and the power of Profit First. Our guest is Ian Price Murphy from Moxie Bookkeeping. She is a Profit First firm, and she's here to share her Profit First journey. And hopefully we can take a couple of tips from her and learn how to improve ourselves. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Ian Price Murphy. It's great to have you join us today.
Great to be here.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do and what your business is?
Sure. My name's Ian Price Murphy. I am the founder and co-owner of Moxie Bookkeeping and Coaching, which is a Profit First bookkeeping firm based out of Brooklyn, New York. Although, as we chatted about, I myself am living in California.
It's nice that you get to run a business on the other side of the world, right?
It sure is.
Especially in today's world. Did you run during COVID, or has this been a while?
We actually have been 100% virtual for years already. So we had hardly a hiccup in COVID. We did have a physical office before then, just so we had somewhere to host clients, and we had 3 full-time staff members that worked there, but they were all more than happy to transition to home. So now we have a storage unit full of all of our junk from the office that we don't know what to do with.
And and that's what I was just reading in the paper, that more and more companies are now realizing that maybe we don't need employees in the office. And they were talking about 60% in, 40% remote, or at least creating the space for that. They were talking about the cost of Manhattan real estate as far as office space and how much money they could save. They were nice enough to mention that they might actually reimburse their employees for home office space, which was interesting. So we'll see what that brings about. So everyone's got a Profit First story. I'd love to hear your backstory. What was going on in life before the whole world of Profit First?
Well, how far back do you want to go? Do you want to go back to the beginning of how I became a bookkeeper back in the Stone Ages, or just the Profit First piece?
Let's go back to the Stone Ages.
I think they're tied together. So my financial journey begins with me fresh out of college with a liberal arts degree and a passion for the arts. So I was working a couple of different jobs, waitressing at night, being a temp during the day, admin work. And and trying to sort of make things neat. And the downside to that, in my case, was that I had grown up in a pretty average middle-class family where we had enough, but not a lot extra, but nobody talked about the money stuff. And so I had always heard, work hard and you'll succeed. And what I found was that I was working constantly, not only temping all day, auditioning and bartending and waitressing all night, but, trying to keep it all together, that as my friends were starting careers and families and, businesses, I filed for bankruptcy. I was so far in debt by my mid-20s, just on trying to live life, gas, and groceries, because I was not in charge of my own income. So every time, I had a slow shift where things didn't tip well, or if the temp agency didn't call that morning, or I had a roommate that skipped out on their phone bill, or, I had a muffler that needed to be repaired. All of these things pushed me further and further into debt, where, had everything gone right, I probably would have just about hung on, but things don't go right in life. And I did not have the financial literacy to read any of the warning signs that were flashing big red, dead end, road closed, bridge out, so that it got to the point where at my current wage, I realized I was going to be spending the rest of my life paying off this debt at insane interest rates. And I decided to declare bankruptcy, which was a pretty humbling moment, as I imagine you can imagine. And the especially with the work ethic that I thought that I had. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I never showed up late. I never called in sick. I was not taking days off. And to have that much dedication come to naught really shook my world. And I realized that I did not have all of the information, and that what I really needed to learn about was how money worked, because no one had ever told me that. And it turns out that's not supposed to be something that you just absorb through the universe. So I had one of my temp jobs had been as, I guess it wasn't really a temp job. I got hired to be this woman's receptionist, but ended up helping her buy her first computer and organizing all of her files and becoming her office manager and negotiating contracts for her and learning bookkeeping. And I realized, and that was one of the final conversations, was that when she hired me, and this was in the early 90s, she was offering me $9 an hour, which for someone sitting around answering your phone wasn't terrible, wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But once I became her office manager, I spoke to her and I said, we hired me on to do one thing. I'm doing something else completely. People who do what I do make more than what I make. They make more like $15 to $25 an hour. I know you can't afford that. I see your books. Could we just do $1 raise to 10? And she said, I'll give you a quarter. So she was offering to raise me to $9.25. And that was when I kind of was like, light bulb, this is only going to work if I make it work. And I was like, we just can't go on like this. So I turned that into a freelance business, where it turned out that, I really enjoyed bookkeeping. I like to call it the one place that I can find achievable perfection in the universe, and began to pursue that. So that fast forward, I was always trying to answer the questions that my clients actually had. And a lot of those questions weren't bookkeeping, that I'd present them with clean reports and they'd say to me things like, okay, but can I afford to start a new product line? Can I afford to move to a larger space? Can I afford to hire an assistant? Can I afford to pay my project manager more? And I didn't have good answers for that, because as a bookkeeper, I was reading yesterday's news and looking at the past and saying, well, based on what you've done, it looks like it. But since I don't know what you're doing tomorrow, I don't really know. And it wasn't until I read Profit First that I felt really empowered to answer those questions and have that forward-looking view to be able to say, where we came from is important, but that doesn't predict where we're going to be tomorrow.
How did Profit First change that?
So I like to think of Profit First and bookkeeping as beans and rice, right? They're each their own separate entity. You can cook each a million ways. They're delicious on their own, but only when you bring them together does this magical, complete protein happen. And so for me, Profit First answered the question of, as a bookkeeper, I'm always struggling to get the information from my clients. I would love to reconcile last month for you. Can I please have the bank statement? Now that I've got the bank statement, can you please tell me what this charge to Amazon was for? Or, was this, which American Express bill did this pay? Or all of the things. And so oftentimes, even with, my best bookkeepers, our books are 2 to 6 weeks behind because we can't get the information that we need. So that also really prevented me from feeling confident in being able to tell business owners what they could and couldn't afford, because I'm like, dude, I don't know. What have you done in the book since last time I saw you? And so Profit First, being the beans to that rice, let us say actually something completely different. Cash management is not dependent on your bookkeeping, because if you're using that good system of keeping everything separate, then you know what your income is without having to wait on your bookkeeper to tell you, just based on what's in the account. And you know what you can afford to pay just based on what's in that account. And so that was really the fundamental shift for me, is both providing that simple system to my clients who are overwhelmingly creative and overwhelmingly don't love numbers, even if they're, I've got photographers that are great at numbers, but they know that that's not where their time is best spent. They should be out there, catching the clients, getting the work done, doing what only they can do. So that's what it did for me, was it gave me a common language to talk to my clients, to help them move forward.
I say creatives and money are like oil and water. They just don't go together. And the faster they understand that, and the faster they put somebody in the seat to help them answer those bigger questions, because at the end of the day, nobody cares what the financial reports say. What they care about as business owners is can I take the next step? And is it doable? And one of the things that business owners don't always understand is, as you grow, the biggest impediment is cash flow. And you can grow too fast for your cash flow and implode, even if you're profitable, because you haven't kept up. And so that's a big part of it. And I guess there is always that struggle. That's why I don't do bookkeeping. I don't want to deal with chasing people down for answers and systems. And I don't know if there's a good system that people should implement. There's probably not that great of a system out there for most business owners to get real-time, almost bookkeeping answers.
It's getting better. I mean, that's what the advances in AI and bookkeeping have been, right? And that's the benefit of some of those companies like Bench, who's a competitor of mine, kind of. But what they do is they go, we know you're never going to answer this question, so we're going to guess for you. And that's not how I work. I don't want to guess for you, because I'm going to guess wrong. I'm going to guess how I would guess, not how you would guess. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What is it? So if you really don't want to touch your own books, there are inexpensive ways to just get it done so that your accountant is happy. And I think maybe this is some of the source of where people as small business owners go wrong, is the authority is the CPA. And the CPA has a very particular need. And so the business owner has been trained to believe that that is the most important goal for their finances, is to get their taxes done, instead of that's a minor compliance box to be checked, that must be checked, but that's not what's gonna help you, right? Just like you're talking about, you have to know your cash flow.
And that's really behind by the time you get your tax return done.
Mm.
So that's essentially useless. It's usually freak out time because you now have a tax bill that you didn't save for. Unless, of course, you're using Profit First. And then you just stroke a check and you move on with life. And sometimes you have a little extra in the tax account, and that's bonus for you, and life is good.
Yeah.
Do you find business owners remember what they spent their money on?
Yes, if they have someone help remind them. And so if we get back to this idea of like, there's got to be a better way, almost every bookkeeping software has a phone app. You can almost always snap a picture of a receipt. You can almost always code something on the fly. When you're bored and waiting for whatever, you can take yesterday's real-time information and be like, oh, yeah, right, I was at a coffee shop. That was a meeting. That's what that was. Or, right, I bought this book. So as long as you're doing it within 48 hours-ish, I think there's no problem remembering. Very few people have lives built to be able to do their bookkeeping in those little 5-minute increments every 48 hours. So I always encourage people to do what I call money dates, to try to make it sound a little less horrible than everyone thinks that it is, where it's like, just make a date on your calendar and like make it as pleasant for yourself as possible. Pour your favorite beverage, listen to your favorite music, make sure that the temperature is comfortable and the lighting is comfortable, and then set a timer and just do your bookkeeping for like 20 minutes. And at the end of the time, you're done. Even if you're not done, you're done. And then if you need more time, maybe eventually you'll sort of be acclimated to spend more time on it. But again, that's not your best use as the business owner anyways. So the more that we can set up rules and automate for all of the recurring transactions, or have a way that you can tell me as the bookkeeper by shooting me an email or shooting me a voice memo of just like, hey, I just finished, a meeting at this place and you'll see it on the charge tomorrow. This is the client. Make sure it's billable to them or not billable to them. Then I can really support you better. And honestly, I'm saying that as a bookkeeper, but more and more, I'm steering people towards virtual assistants for that kind of work, because it's really organization of that information. And then you can preserve the work that you do with me to be that more senior level, closing the books out, looking for errors, reviewing the reports with you, and talking through, like, what does this all mean? So that you're not paying an expert rate to leave a voice memo about where you were yesterday.
So how has Profit First changed everything?
Well, for me, just personally for me, I was already, again, a very precise keeper of my own books. I'm a bookkeeper, and it's not the cobbler's children in this case. I very much wanted to know. I'm very interested in my own financial health. I still have a little PTSD left over from the bankruptcy from 30 years ago. So I was deeply involved in it. But I still made many of the same decision-making mistakes that small business owners make that can really only be solved by Profit First. So I would get to the end of the quarter or the year, and I would say, hey, look, there's money in the bank, right? Computer upgrades for everyone, or let's all go to a conference together, or something that I didn't realize, because I was still being paid and we were still covering our taxes and all of that, but I wasn't seeing that as an either or situation. Either this is my paycheck or this is a conference. And so I was, and some of that again is I didn't have the beautiful, clear structured guidelines that Profit First gives for the targets. So when I implemented Profit First in my business, I was like, if I just am a little bit more strategic and intentional with my business, rather than, ooh, that's a shiny online course I'd like to buy, or, ooh, that sounds nice, I doubled my take-home pay without changing anything else. No less profit, no more income. I just was able to really say, if I choose to go to this conference, this 5th conference for instance. Now I'm eating into my owner's pay. Is that really what I want to do? Or am I just going because I want to go? And sometimes I go, yeah, I just want to go. And I could go. But it was now a clear intentional decision. And so that was just transformational for my business. And that was what took it from being I really think that this is a good system that everyone should use, to like, this is non-negotiable. If you work with me, you have to be doing this.
And I think that's a issue that most business owners have, is that they don't realize every dollar you spend is a dollar out of your pocket. And you need to be aware of that. And a dollar out of your pocket is not equal to a dollar in revenue. And so, you know, for many business owners, a dollar out of your pocket might be $10 or $20 in revenue. You need to keep all those straight, and you need to be a little bit more frugal with your spending. And that's just life. And Profit First puts constraints on the system to ensure that that's the case. So most business owners, and as you said, creatives, like looking at their books is going to glaze their eyes over. How does someone know that their bookkeeper is doing a good job with the books?
There's two reports that I feel like everyone must look at regularly in order to get a good sense of that. One is the profit and loss. You just have to see what's coming in and what's going out, just to gut check it. Most of the time when people say, oh, I don't look at those because I don't understand them, that's actually a structural issue. You know, that your chart of accounts wasn't designed for you or your business. And just by sort of tailoring that suit, if you use the words that you internally use of how do we earn and spend money, that report should make sense. If it still doesn't make sense, then it's a problem with your bookkeeper. Something's not happening. Something is getting missed or miscategorized. The other one that not a lot of people think of to look at is the reconciliation report itself. And the reason for that is, A, you want to make sure that your bookkeeper is actually reconciling, not just entering things, but double checking them against the bank statements. And the section that says uncleared transactions, you want to make sure that those are all current and that you know what they are and you're pretty sure that they're going to clear. Because when we take over books, one of the first things we do is this sort of deep dive assessment. And, you know, I can't tell you how often I see things from 3, 4, 5 years ago, even when there's a very competent bookkeeper. You know, maybe it's just that we never got the adjustments back from the CPA. Maybe it's just nobody ever had time to do it. But that's the thing that you can look at as the business owner and be like, why is something old here?
I got to tell you, the one thing I've started to really hate is those adjustments by the CPA. They make profits disappear, and I don't know where that money goes. And I think a lot of times the business owner has the same struggle. He's like, but I did all this revenue, and somewhere in an adjustment somewhere, it disappeared. And so being clear on what they're doing and making sure that it's all in line, because all they're doing is what you said before. They're just getting books ready for taxes, right, not to show that you are profitable. And unfortunately, most bookkeepers are just getting the bookkeeping done so that the accountant can do the taxes, and nobody's talking about, are you profitable, and answering the bigger questions. And I think that's where most business owners struggle. They want answers to questions. They don't want spreadsheets.
Right. And that's true even at the corporate level, right? They just have the guy or the person called the CFO to help them answer those things. And for small business, you know, there's no exactly equal role. Mostly because you don't really need someone, you know, negotiating contracts for you if you don't really have that going on. But, you know, even a fractional CFO can be $5,000 a month. And so who do the small businesses turn to for that kind of intelligence? If it's not your CPA, and if it's not your bookkeeper, and if it's not necessarily even your business coach, who a lot of business coaches are focused way more on marketing, sales, structure than they are on finance. You know, some coaches, thankfully, are profit first coaches and can really support you through that financial stuff. because I do think that that's, such a crucial piece of it.
And it's true. Most business coaches do not focus on profit. As a matter of fact, when I talk to many of them, they'll blatantly tell me, like, yeah, we have kind of a little system in there, but we don't focus on that. That's not our area. And when we have trouble, we will bring you in. That's why I like being a profit first coach, because we come in and we first focus on the money. And then based on that, I can tell them which system needs fixed. So we can look at it and go, you have a marketing problem. You have a sales problem. You have a delivery of goods problem. You have an accounts receivable problem. You have a growth problem. Or you have a mistakes problem, or a pricing problem. Like, I can answer all those questions. And that's what I do with my clients. We sit down and look at all of those different areas, and I can point, usually within minutes. Like, this morning I was working on a proposal and I looked at it. I go, pricing problem. Like, I can tell just by looking at the sheets that if they fix this one thing, they're going to go from constantly struggling to immediately profitable. And they just need to fix that one lever.
And this is kind of waxing poetic, but this is one of the things that I really love also about the profit first family, if you will, is, when something feels outside of my scope, whether it's preparing income taxes or getting that kind of structural input. Again, I know that a lot of business coaches don't have financial backgrounds. And so if that's what they, if I've taken them as far as I can take them in the bookkeeping and profit first world, and I know that they need something else, I want to be able to send them to a tax preparer or a coach, or, have them be able to send someone to me where there's not that pushback, where you don't waste time being like, but why would anyone have 8 bank accounts? Why would you? And it's so nice to have a network of professionals who work the way that I do, and work in the same system that I do, because it just, again, makes me feel like I know that my client can be supported no matter what comes up for them.
You kind of gave me a little bit of an aha moment, because I didn't realize that I tie all those things together. So I don't do taxes, but I am an EA. My wife's a CPA. We understand the whole tax world. So I know what they're doing over there. And we used to do bookkeeping. I just don't do it anymore because it's not what I want to do. And I know profit first, so I can tie all the different pieces. And I understand the forecasting and all of the other pieces. And I know probably about 80% of what the business coaches do, which means you're going to get 96% of the results without having to pay extra.
Yeah.
And it's
You're
only
the unicorn.
I'm the unicorn. And when I tell people, but I'll be honest, like, I know you need to do marketing, and I can look at marketing and go, that's good, that's bad. I can't tell you how to do it, but I can help you review the cost of marketing and tell you, go out and find a marketer. Go out and put a system in. But because I've worked with enough, I can go, that's not real marketing, and that's not going to drive your business, or the cost of that marketing. That's the biggest thing I do a lot of times. I'm like, hey, how much did you spend on the marketing program last month and those people? All right, you spent $5,000. How much in sales did they bring in? All right, they brought in $25,000. You do realize, based on your cost of goods, overhead, and everything else, that you're actually losing money with them. And so you really need to tie all the strings that it goes. And that's not easy to do. But over time, we get there. And we help people do that. Any big issues that you see with bookkeeping, and what should business owners, like some big tips they can kind of walk away with?
The big one is, don't wait for it to become a problem before you call somebody. Again, so much of the issues that I see are with the chart of accounts. And so just having someone who can work with you, customize that piece, get that strong foundation in, makes everything else that comes after it easier.
my guess is most business owners don't know what to look for. What I tell them is the chart of account should match the tax return, because that's what a lot of that is flowing to. So prepare the information in a way for your accountant or the tax return, because I don't care where that meal ended up in the chart of accounts. I just care that you're spending too much on meals. And are you getting a return?
Yeah. And I actually have a distinct point of view on that, where I feel like too many people set it up just for the tax return, and they're not getting the detail that they need, especially around income. You know, what am I earning from my one-day workshops? What am I earning from my ebook? What am I earning from my 12-month program? Whatever it is. So that they're not looking at revenue streams, you know, or for photographers, what are the prints that I'm making, bringing in versus this or that, so that they're not making good management decisions, because they, again, think that the CPA is the end all be all. And so being able to link that, you know, these are the categories that would funnel into this place on the tax return is important. But it's so much more important if you have a category called dues and subscriptions, and you don't know what goes in there. So sometimes it's your software fee, and sometimes it's your iTunes, and sometimes it's actually a book that you bought. Then that's not a good category, even if that is the, you know, technically correct tax category.
Correct, but you can break that all out underneath the main category. And that's a big part of what I will do. We'll go down and we'll evaluate jobs. So if you're a wedding photographer, we'll sit down and we'll say, we're going to evaluate 6 weddings. How much did you charge? Okay. How much time did you put in day of? How much time did you put in pre and post?
Yeah.
Do you have costs in, you know, if you're creating a deliverable product, what does that cost? And what is that total? And then, okay, you take headshots. Okay, well, how much do you charge for headshots? What's the time involved? People forget the time component. And then what are the other deliverables? So we can look and see what profit margins are by service line. And so, yeah, we do that as well.
Yeah, cool.
To make sure. Because otherwise, you don't know what's there. You need good information.
Right.
As long as I get what I want, then I'm okay with everything being mapped to the tax thing, because I can usually pull out what I need. With the software today, you can go in, and if you know what you're doing, you can create your own reports. And that's what I tell business owners. If the reports aren't coming to you in a way that's easy for you to read, have somebody change your reports.
Absolutely.
Because and I don't know if people realize this, but I can run a balance sheet and a P&L in software in about 30 seconds. Like, it's that quick. And I can even add a comparator to it in about 12 more. So running these reports is not difficult. And then you just send it to Excel. And then in Excel, we can work some magic, figure things out, and really get you the answers that you need. As long as you have a good underlying, strong system in place, then we can work with that. You just need that foundation.
Agreed.
Cool. Is there anything else that you would like to share with business owners around their bookkeeping?
I think that's the big thing. You know, don't wait until it becomes a problem, and you're not doing profit first already. Boy, howdy, get on it.
And that's the biggest thing I see with my business owners, because a lot of times by the time we have certain conversations, sometimes I'm looking back 3 months. What did you spend $5,000 on? They're like, I spent $5,000. I'm like, yeah, you did. oh, that. I'm like, next time you call me before you do that.
Yeah.
You need approval on those. Cool. If people would like to find you and find out about your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
We're online, of course. Our website is www.moxiebookkeeping.com. We also have a Facebook group called Financial Clarity for Creative Business Owners. You don't have to be a creative business owner to join. We don't exclude anyone, but that's primarily what it's designed around. And we love to have some lively conversations in there.
Cool. And we will put those into the show notes, make it easy for people to find you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Remember, your accountant, bookkeeper, and even me work for you. If you're not getting your information in a format that's understandable and actionable to you, demand better. I build custom sheets in Excel for each of my clients to help them focus on what's most important to them. And we work together to figure out what's the best system for them. Profit First provides you clarity in the movement of your money, and it allows you to feel it and see it. Reality is, it's time for you to be more profitable. If you need help, reach out to one of us. I'm going to put links to Moxie Bookkeeping and her Facebook group in the show notes to make it easy for you. And you know where to find me. Don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn. Every week I post some really short videos with business tips. You can also find the Effortless Cash Flow course on the website at profitcomesfirst.com. Maybe that's a better choice for you. Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.